Let's join Heather and our leadership coach for building leaders, Mary Mangione, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
Use student assessment data, analyze instructional practices, and make necessary adjustments that improve student outcomes. After special education teachers develop instructional goals, they evaluate and make ongoing adjustments to students' instructional programs. Once instruction and other supports are designed and implemented, special education teachers have the skill to manage and engage in ongoing data collection using curriculum-based measures, informal classroom assessments, observations of student academic performance, and behavior self-assessment of classroom instruction, and discussions with key stakeholders like students, families, and other professionals. Teachers study their practice to improve student learning, validate reasoned hypotheses about salient instructional features, and enhance instructional decision-making. Effective teachers retain, reuse, and extend practices that improve student learning and adjust or discard those that do not.
This week, we're talking about high leverage practice number 6, using student assessment data, analyzing instructional practices, and making necessary adjustments that improve student outcomes. So, Mary, for you in your practice with all of your educators and all the different types of needs that are showing up with your students, what does this look like for you?
So, Heather, I can definitely tell you that data is not something that we have a shortage of. We have, in the current system that I work in, we have so much data. We're constantly surveying students, assessing students, data assessment, common assessments. We have all this data to work with, but the biggest struggle really is making sense of that data and pinpointing what's going to make the biggest impact. That's been kind of the discussion for us, for our team this past year, for all the principals, is we have this wonderful data, but everyone's creating their own spreadsheets and spending endless amount of time on updating spreadsheets and color coding them and all these things. But what are we actually doing with them, and why are we spending so much time organizing data and not actually looking at and analyzing the data to get to the root cause of why we're not seeing the results? So in a perfect world, what we would really like to see is side-by-side comparison of assessments to see the trends, to group students, to provide those interventions so that we can truly make an impact on students, because we know that progress takes a long time, and we know that support and interventions need to be systematized. That's something that has been an ongoing conversation for our team as well as our district.
Well, I think it's a beautiful thing that you've got too much data, but I think what you're sort of referring to is really common. Like, I work with teams all the time that whether they have a lot of data at their fingertips or they don't really feel like they have much or enough data, they don't always know how to analyze it or how to make sense of it or what does it even mean, or like, I have it, okay, so here's the data. But so then what decisions are we making from that, and what decisions can we actually not be making from that data? That's not what that says. That's not, yeah, it's not really there and available for our team to work with. I mean, do you run into anything like that?
We run into that on a regular basis. So when we have our teams looking at data and making decisions based on that data, when it comes to behavior data, we tend to have an easier time kind of analyzing that data because it's historically that data has been readily available. And that's an area that we have focused on for years. But when it comes to academic data, it is really difficult to make change when you can't necessarily sit down with a teacher to look at all of the classes that they're teaching and to look at the standards to see where students are not making the progress that we want them to make, right? And that can be really frustrating for the teachers too. So our ask really this year, and this is something that we're trying to build out for the following school year, really is for principals or school leaders to be able to look at multiple points of data and to pull out data specific to that teacher for that content area. And then to look at that data with them together to say, where do you want to make progress and what do you see happening in your classes? So in terms of training to look at data and also to analyze data to come up with action steps, I really think that building leaders also need to be present and to be teaching teachers and teams to be able to look at it, to pinpoint action steps small enough to make progress. Because again, when we look at overarching school improvement data, that's really like a lot, too many to look at the same time. I know that I tend to be very impatient when it comes to making progress, wanting to make progress in the quickest way possible. I became an educator, and the longer I do it, I'm starting to realize that progress takes time. I can't make progress happen overnight, but I do know that when teams are individual teams that are looking at data and coming up with action steps and realizing that they're making progress in that goal that they created, short-term and long-term goals, I do know that they feel a sense of ownership. And even if I'm not present in that team, progress is going to happen.
I think part of what you're sharing, though, it sounds like it's almost coming from that special ed background where you can see the individual student. And so when you see macro data and you see these large clusters, you can actually drill down either in the data or in your mind or both to be able to see like what are those small pieces, if it's that, student outliers or if it's a certain, content piece or something. Like you can see the smaller pieces in the bigger picture. I'm so curious, like, do you have any hints or ideas like how you can just kind of see it that way, because a lot of the building leaders that I work with come from primarily general education, and they're used to just looking at macro data and identifying the outlier so that other people can support the outlier. But that's not your perspective, which is awesome. Like how have you gotten here, and like what would you recommend to other folks that are trying to make sense of this the way that you just naturally do?
Well, that's funny that you bring up the special ed piece because when I think of goals, I always think of an IEP goal.
Hmm.
Like whether it's a school improvement goal or a team goal, I always think about, okay, what is the overarching goal for the student, and then what are the action steps really,
Yep.
and the benchmarks. So I always think of it as like a progression toward a bigger goal, and I'm thinking about it kind of like on a constant basis, depending on what teams are working on which goal. I think we really need to think about bite-sized goals and thinking about immediate goals and long-term goals. I also think that the people who are working on the goals need to be working with the students in what the area that you're working on the goal. So the team members and their work is super important because when we think about the action steps, the actions that you're taking to make progress truly has to be flexible in a way. If it's not working, you have to come back to the team and you have to be able to adjust your action step for the next data protocol. So having the right people on your team, ensuring that you have frequent check-ins to see if the data is moving, and then pivoting to see what's not working so that you can pivot the action step or the steps that you're taking to work towards that goal. And I think patience is really important in reaching out to those resources. We often forget that, in a district or in a school, there are plenty of resources available. It's just a matter of accessing those resources and looking at it from more of a holistic perspective as to what's working and what's not.
Yeah, I yes, I cannot echo that more because I think in education we're constantly trying to do more with less. And sometimes we get focused on what we don't have that we forget that we can actually use what we do have to its fullest capacity. I'm really curious, kind of like, is I know that's sort of the perspective that you take with this. When you're looking at trying to make those adjustments, so you're, looking at the data, you're getting the right people at the right tables to try to make sense of the right things, to move in the right direction, all of that stuff is moving. How do you actually walk with teams to figure out, okay, so we're going to make those adjustments, or what are those adjustments? Or like, even I'm thinking sometimes I'm partnered with teams that maybe just have really tiny toolboxes and we just need more tools, or we need to learn something ourselves so that we can, perpetuate different student outcomes. Like, how do you walk that with your people?
I think you just nailed it. I think that oftentimes when we are not achieving the goal that we intend to, it is an automatic response to say, well, we don't have enough staff for that.
Mhm.
Or, well, we need this person's role to be hired to do this work.
Mhm.
And I often hear that with the MTSS framework. MTSS is not a person who does everything.
Yes,
It's a
thank you.
framework and it's a system, right? And everyone's doing it. So ultimately, I think that it comes down to having a discussion about changing adult practices. And that's really hard, especially when you are working with a group of individuals who have been doing it for a long time. They might not be very open to being vulnerable and to trying new strategies. But adult practices, I think that that is a number one factor when it comes to student achievement and making progress towards goals. If we start to practice, if we start to do things a little differently, and if it works, and we continue to develop and provide professional learning to do things a little differently, so that we're using the best strategies possible for that goal, that's really the key, and that's the hardest thing, right? Having adults change what they're doing and doing it a little differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap up today, I'm curious if you can share any examples of where maybe you've worked with teams that thought they were making sense of assessment data, but it was maybe not the conclusions that you can draw from that, or they thought they were analyzing their instructional practices, but maybe they were doing something different. Do you have any examples of things that maybe people thought they were leveraging this high leverage practice, but maybe in reality they were kind of missing the mark?
One thing that's been really difficult for our team has been attendance. And
Mm,
I'm going to use this example because this is never ending work.
yeah.
Attendance has been definitely a struggle since COVID. It's gotten significantly worse. And there's a lot of the attendance data is very straightforward. Either they're here or they're not here. And our team has been working on attendance for the whole year, and we have a truancy specialist. We work very closely with the regional office of education, and we do know that punitive measures do not work for our families. I do have to say that when looking at attendance, we really had to look at our tier one practices more than anything, just because when kids are not coming to the building, no matter how many home visits that we made, it really didn't make an impact on increasing the students who really had difficulties coming to school for whatever reason. So again, we look at the data, but we had to dive even deeper to look at and kind of disaggregate the data to look at, okay, this kid's not coming to school because they might be having home issues or the student has to work, or this student is not coming to school because they're choosing not to come to school because of X, Y, and Z reasons. So even with the data that we have, we really had to break it down to why they were not coming to school in order to make action steps. So again, creating teams within teams to look at more data because it is really complex. So when we look at complex data, when we look at people's behaviors as to why that's impacting the data that we look at, you may have to dive a little deeper and look at the anecdotal data to be able to make those decisions for teams.
Yeah, thank you for calling forward that even when data seems so clean and direct and it's just they're here or they're not here, like something that's so simple, it is rarely that simple. Anytime you're looking at performance of any form, if it doesn't matter if it's behavioral or if it's academic, any type of performance, it is never going to be captured in the numbers. There's always the actual story around the numbers. So then that's what's informing that decision making and where you go from there. So thank you for always bringing that perspective to the table and having this conversation with me today about this high leverage practice.
No problem.
Working in a self-contained, alternative education, therapeutic, or correctional classroom? Project Onward is a 6-strand cohort-based project designed to help you build a strong, structured program for complex students who need extra specialized support. You'll get practical tools to set up clear routines, strengthen engagement, manage behavior, and plan instruction that actually fits the splintered needs of your students. By the end, you'll walk away with a complete, ready-to-use program that has been adapted to your local needs. Led by Heather Bolchko, Lathrell Eisler, Jonathan Barbario, and Manny Wasias, Project Onward blends proven strategies with vetted experience, helping you move forward with confidence. If you're creating something from the ground up or looking to update what you've got, this project gives you the structure and clarity to do it well. If you support students with low incident needs, Project Base helps you design a consistent classroom built just for them. And if you're working in general ed or resource settings with behavioral challenges, Project Thrive gives you the tools to work with, not against, the flow of your classroom. Visit university.thresholdlearning.org to meet the team and get started today. Let's move onward, together.
Special education teachers play a crucial role in tailoring instructional and behavioral practices to meet the diverse needs of their students. Even though many of these practices are supported by research or widely accepted as effective, a key insight is that no single approach will work for every student. Instead, special education teachers rely on a nuanced understanding of each student's progress to guide their instructional choices. This involves a dynamic process of formative assessment. Formative assessment isn't just about testing students, it's a comprehensive method of gathering feedback during instruction to refine and improve teaching strategies. Essentially, it's a loop of collecting data, ranging from curriculum based measures and informal classroom assessments to observations and self assessments. This data is then used to gauge how well instructional methods are working, guiding teachers to make necessary adjustments. The process starts with gathering a variety of data from reliable sources. Teachers then interpret this information to evaluate the effectiveness of their teaching. If the data reveals that current methods aren't meeting students' needs, they develop alternative strategies and modify their approach accordingly. This cycle of collecting data, interpreting results, and refining instruction continues, creating a continuous feedback loop aimed at enhancing student achievement. In practice, formative assessment helps teachers make informed decisions about how to use instructional time, provide additional support for students who are struggling, adjust teaching methods, and adapt the curriculum based on the strengths and weaknesses revealed through data analysis. By engaging in this iterative process, special education teachers can better support their students and drive their progress toward success. High Leverage Practice 6, or HLP 6, is built on the foundation established by the first 5 high leverage practices. To truly excel in HLP 6, special educators must be adept at utilizing a broad range of student data to make informed decisions about instructional adjustments. This capability is critical for enhancing student outcomes. However, it's important to recognize that this isn't a task that can be accomplished in isolation. Effective collaboration with colleagues and families is essential. Special educators need to draw on a diverse array of data sources and have a robust toolkit of evidence based and other instructional practices at their disposal. This approach ensures they can adapt to meet the varied needs of their students. HLP 6 is deeply intertwined with the practices from both the social, emotional, behavioral, and instruction domains. Capturing data on the effectiveness of different instructional strategies and making decisions based on that data is a fundamental aspect of the special educator's role. In essence, HLP 6 reflects the ongoing, collaborative process of refining instructional methods to support student success. Effective teachers who use student data to guide their instructional decisions starts by establishing where each student currently stands, employing a range of assessments to gauge their performance. With this baseline in hand, they set ambitious long-term goals for student achievement. To reach these goals, they carefully select and implement interventions, ensuring their instruction is delivered with high fidelity. As students progress, these teachers continuously monitor their advancement towards these goals, evaluating whether the current strategies and interventions are effective. If the data suggests that changes are needed, they are prepared to adjust their instructional practices, interventions, or services accordingly. Furthermore, these teachers use visual tools like graphs to make student progress, or the lack of it, clearly visible and easily communicable to stakeholders, team members, and families. Their approach is characterized by patience, systematic effort, and a persistent search for what truly works for each individual student. This relentless focus on finding effective strategies ensures they are always striving to enhance their students' educational experiences. For school leaders aiming to support their teachers effectively, a key strategy is to guide educators in interpreting data from diverse sources. This helps teachers make informed decisions about how to adjust their instruction and services. It's also crucial to offer feedback and coaching on how faithfully teachers are implementing selected instructional strategies and interventions. Establishing consistent schedules and procedures for collecting, scoring, graphing, and analyzing data is essential. This routine reinforces the importance of data-based decision-making in the classroom. Additionally, creating well-organized systems for assessment and intervention materials ensures that everything teachers need is readily accessible. Training support staff to assist with data-based routines can further enhance the decision-making process. Finally, providing opportunities for teachers to collaborate, share data, and engage in collective problem-solving fosters a culture of data-driven decision-making within the school. By implementing these strategies, school leaders can significantly strengthen their teachers' ability to use data effectively to improve student outcomes. While the Institute of Education Sciences may categorize research support for formative assessment and continuous improvement cycles as low, it's important to recognize that a wealth of individual studies advocate for using assessment data within a data-based decision-making framework to enhance instruction. This approach proves particularly valuable when working with students who have unique educational needs. Despite the broader research assessment, these targeted studies highlight the practical benefits of leveraging data to refine and improve teaching strategies for better outcomes. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our registered behavior technician, Candace McCoy, to talk about our next high-leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow @ThresholdLearningTLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.